18,000X, this is Dustin coming at you again with another video where we talk about the wild world of internet money. So this is today's daily crypto rundown where we talk about what you need to know in the world of crypto. And it's going to be a little bit different format. We're not really going to go over news articles because the most dominating thought conversation happening right now is Bitcoin 10K. So I would like to kind of discuss just what that means going forward, maybe some of the why, all that. We'll just kind of get into the weeds just a little bit and go over some of this stuff. So as you can see here, this is the day after 10K. We've got 11.3, right? So it's $11,314. That's crazy. So everything is pretty much up. I mean, there's a few things that aren't, but all in all, things have risen up pretty high. I think BitConnect is actually climbing back up. They had a yacht party yesterday, so, and also there's some announcements coming out, so I think there was a little bit of boom. Hard to know kind of the buy and sell reasoning here, but for a long time it was very much in parity to Bitcoin, but I think that there's some things happening in regards to the BCC Pay card coming out and some other things that might just be getting some hype ready to unleash itself on BitConnect, so it'll be interesting. But in general, all of the lending platforms that are coming out, BitConnect obviously being the grandfather of those things, they're all pretty much down right now just because Bitcoin is so high. All of the money is just piping in here just so that people can ride this wave. But I think that wave is going to hit a lull, and I'll show you why here in a minute. But for now, we're just kind of checking this out. So Ethereum, yeah, I think that's pretty close to, this is a stable price for me. If Bitcoin is going up this high here, and Ethereum is not suffering because of it, to me that's a pretty good indicator of health. This is kind of finding like a stability. In my opinion, F has a lot of value, so I don't see this as being bloated. This is definitely bloated to me, although it's great value. But I'm just saying in general, there's going to, in my opinion, be a bit of a pullback. Most likely the biggest one coming right before Christmas time, or in Christmas time. And there's historical indicators of that. We can look in here in just a second and go over it. But so what do we want to look at? Let's look at Bitcoin again. So let's just make a trend line real quick. Kind of see. You can see that this is kind of rough, but generally here it busted out of this thing like pretty crazy. I don't know how to get rid of this dude. There we go. You can see that around here it just kind of shot up, but I feel like this is, excuse me, about to end and kind of trickle back down and stabilize somewhere maybe here-ish or so. And here's why. Well, 10K is kind of a paradigm. You don't know what people are just gonna kind of like buy strangely because it's just a milestone, if you will. But if you take this RSI indicator, you can see that like every time it hit about 80 here, there was like a down. It's never really popped past 80, except for it's doing it now. But if you're going to use RSI as an indicator, which is a good indicator of when things are overbought, like this is overbought, and getting back into this area, which is where it becomes more of like a healthy buy, or it's just more stable. So if this is kind of a good background indicator, I think that it's probably going to do something like this and kind of stabilize itself back up in here at some point. And maybe that is probably around 10K-ish for a little bit, so maybe 10.5. We'll see. But that's just basically looking at this, and that's kind of my assumption there. So enough about like what's going on. Let's talk about kind of the why. Why is Bitcoin getting to 10K? And why are people being so hyped about it? Well, if you're in crypto, you've already become familiarized with your reasons of getting into it, but we're only like 1% of the world population that is even participating in Bitcoin to any capacity. So there's a lot of room for growth and adoption. And so my assumption is the people that have already got into it are kind of leading the way as far as understanding current finance and where it is. And so there is a worldwide, there's just kind of just a rejection of corruption that's going on. So there's a lot of people looking at the world and saying, you know, we have enough information and background going back from the beginning of the industrial age when, you know, newspapers and things, and then we have an archive of like daily events, to now where there's like massive amounts of information stored on a daily basis. We're looking back and we're seeing that we're working hard and we're creating treasure for ourselves. We're trading our life force or, you know, time for money or some value, treasure, and we're putting it in places that we want to store this wealth because it's important to us, because, you know, in our finite life, this is what we're trading it for. So we're looking at this and we're seeing that things like central banks, they make promises about letting, you know, they're saying, hey, come store your treasure with us. But, you know, 50 years go by and you worked hard for, let's say, $20,000 at one point, and you go to use that down the road, and inflation has deteriorated the buying power of your money. So it's a lot less, it's worth so much less. And so people, you know, have now been able to see this trend on a day-to-day, or, you know, patterns, putting it together that, you know, the former systems or the systems that are currently mainstream, they're just not something that's a good investment for the future. So therefore, people are turning towards things like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as a store of their wealth, because there's mathematical promises being made that can't be broken in regards to how much coin can be created and how it can be distributed. And there's a distributed ledger that lets you look and see where the money's coming from and to and from, and it can't just be printed out of thin air. So these are promises that can't be broken because they're based in math. So when you look at something in terms of trust, would you rather trust a corruptible human or an incorruptible algorithm, right? So a lot of people, smart or not, there's just an intuitive thought in their mind about this, and it's a gut check, and so they're seeing it and wanting to move it forward. So I think that that's kind of how we've started, and that's just going to be an echo that carries forward as more people become aware of these types of options. But there will also be, in my opinion, a lot of smear campaigns. There's an existing system that's kind of fighting for life and doesn't want to really let go. So over time, the nature of man is, if, you know, you're trying to make yourself look better and you're actually not better, you're just going to use, you know, dirty tactics and sling mud. So we might get some hate going on here in a little bit of as Bitcoin rises or cryptocurrency rises to more mainstream, about how it is inferior in some way, but it'll just be, you know, PR spin. Yeah, so that's kind of the history, in my opinion, of Bitcoin, of why it's gotten to where it is, and where is it going to go? That's another great thought. So I don't know, it depends on who you ask, and it depends on what Bitcoin actually does for itself. So if it stays as digital gold, or, you know, kind of like a vault where things are slow purposefully, that will kind of limit its ability to grow to a high USD equivalent value. It will still grow, it just won't be as big as if it were to be like a replacement for cash. So it's hard to say, but the concept, right, of how Bitcoin is being used today, if it can be done more efficiently and the, you know, transaction time can drop, then the sky's the limit. It just depends on what comes along that might best it at some point. But until that happens, I mean, one Bitcoin could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. it just, or maybe, you know, when it gets to that point, there won't be a USD equivalent. There will just be a Bitcoin, because most people will just want that. So they want to separate their finance from the state. And there's an argument that the state actually doesn't control finance, but it's very closely tied, and this is much more independent. So we're still at the early stages. I would say, and I've said it before, this is still phase 1 of a multi-phase adoption process. I don't think that we'll get into phase 2 probably until the second quarter or so of 2018. But we're still at the first end, so ebbs and flows will occur, but in the end, this, in my opinion, will continue to grow high, and everything else will continue to grow at their own pace, and it's just going to pump Bitcoin because it's currently the king of the hill with all the network effects. So that'll be it for today's Daily Crypto Rundown. If you thought this was informative, if you liked it, hit the like button, subscribe, share. In the description box below, there are links. These are platforms that we use on this channel to help fund it and to help spread the knowledge of Bitcoin and to get more Bitcoin in people's hands. So if you haven't got started, the best way to start is to get started. Click one of those links. If you do, sign up, let me know, send me a message, and I'll help give you any information that you would need in order to start using this stuff and potentially generate some Bitcoin for yourself the way that we have in this channel, and follow some of the tactics that we have. I'd be more than happy to walk you through that. So that's going to be it for me today. Talk to you later, guys. Peace.